Hello, I am Parneet Jaggi, and today we're going to take up a popular poem by A.K. Ramanujan, Ecology. A.K. Ramanujan is a noted name in Indian writing in English. He was a poet, a translator, linguist, and a folklorist. Born in Mysore, Karnataka, in a Brahmin family that loved and encouraged learning, Ramanujan taught at several universities in South India. He was awarded the Fulbright Scholarship at Indiana University, where he also completed his PhD in linguistics. He taught at several prestigious US colleges such as Harvard University, University of California, Berkeley, and was fluent in many languages including English, Kannada, and Tamil. In 1962, he joined the University of Chicago, where he enjoyed an illustrious career as a professor of linguistics and professor of South Asian languages and civilizations. His critical work is noticeable in Indian folklore and also translations of Indian classical literature. In 1976, the government of India also honored him with the prestigious Padma Shri. He passed away in 1993 in Chicago. When we talk about his works, there is a plethora of his input, poetry as well as prose, but here we will only name a few. In poetry, we have his important collections like The Striders, Relations, Selected Poems, Second Sight, the collected poems of A.K. Ramanujan, uncollected poems in prose, and an important collection of essays, the collected essays of A.K. Ramanujan. Now, when we talk about the poem Ecology, it is a well-known poem by Ramanujan and was published in the third volume of his poems, Second Sight, in 1986. Now, what is the poem about? Ecology, we know, is about nature, about his surroundings, about the atmosphere. But the poem is an extended metaphor that talks about the family traditions, the Indian customs, attachment to one's family, the difference in the older and younger generation, and the irony is pervading throughout the poem. Let's take up the poem Ecology. The day after the first rain, monsoon. For years I would home in a rage. Interesting. What are you so mad about, speaker? For I could see from a mile away on the way home, our 3 red champak trees. Our 3 red champak trees had done it again, meaning they've done it before. So now see, it goes in a narrative style, in an informal rhetoric technique, but the narrator here is the speaker, the poet himself, and we can see from the very beginning that he is going back home, and every year he is doing the same. But what he is noticing while he's back home is the highlight is the red champak trees. Our 3 red champak trees means there is some kind of affinity or attachment associated with these trees. Meaning they have done it before, had burst into flower and given mother her first blinding migraine. First, but not the last. Blinding because of the extent of the pain she is in of the season. These migraines last the whole season. Now, mother in capital M. So here the protagonist seems to be the mother, and who is directly related and associated with these red champak trees and the flowers, which give her a blinding migraine, a problem of the headache, which is recurrent each time these flowers bloom. These migraines last the whole season with their street-long, heavy-hung, yellow pollen fog of a fragrance. The pollen grains have made their air thick like fog In fact, the air is yellow. With its heady scent, no wind could sift. The breeze cannot blow away this fog. Notice here that there is no full stop. There is no big pause in the stanzas of the poem, but the whole poem reads like a complete sentence. We see enjambment with a free flow going from the first sentence to the last. And notice the compound words used here: street long, heavy hung, yellow pollen, fog of a fragrance. Now this is the description of that tree which is causing a health issue, a problem, a physical problem to his mother. But the attachment is more important than the physical problem, about which he talks next. No door could shut out, and the doors cannot keep it out either. The whole street in front of them is thick with it. It will seep in through the gaps from our black-pillared house, whose walls had ears and eyes, begins personifying the house. Scales, smells, bone creaks, nightly visiting voices, and vaporous pollen will get in through the holes like us. Self-explanatory. We will breathe in this fog of pollen. Now here pollen becomes a huge hero. No doors could shut out. Nothing could keep that effect of the champak flowers and the trees out. It had to creep in their traditional ancestral home and cause problem to his mother. Nothing could keep that pollen out. The pillared house, whose walls even had ears and eyes. So now here the house is personified. And it is described as if it is a living creature with limbs and sense organs. But he says even then it did not have the might, the power to hold that smell, that fog, that effect of pollen outside. But mother, flashing her temper like her mother's twisted silver. Notice the simile here, giving the mother's anger some physical quality, shining, radiant, expressive in her temper. Grandchildren's knickers, soaked, then wrung, twisted, wet as a cold pack on her head. Wet because she was sweating. Cold sweats would not let us cut down a flowering tree. So all this suffering she is going through. She is going through tremendous suffering of a disease like migraine. But nobody could convince her that she had to get rid of the trees to get rid of the sufferings. So no matter how cold sweats she was getting, she would not let them cut down the flowering tree. Flowering tree, religious significance, bad omen, almost as old as her, seeded, she said, by a passing bird's providential droppings, taken as a blessing came from the sky. Now here, her, we may call them illusions, but her traditional convictions, her beliefs, her religious beliefs that it was inauspicious to cut these trees, they are taken as blessings that have come directly from the sky in the form of the droppings by the passing birds. So she would not let anybody cut these trees because it would be a bad omen. To give her gods and her daughter's daughter, basketful of annual flower. This is the extent of what this tree is good for. So this is how she elates the importance, the significance of good omens in the form of ecology, in the form of nature that surrounds her. She doesn't want to get rid of these ecological factors despite the fact that they are killing her. They are making her suffer so much. So she says she's thinking even for the generations to come, for her daughters and for her daughter's daughter, and for one line of cousins. A door of migraines in season, burn, perhaps the pollen allergy is inherited. So now there was a chance that even the cousins and the daughters and the children would inherit that disease of migraine, that killing headache, but she would not shirk to bear all this, but she would not cut or let them cut the trees that were so dear to her heart. And they were actually, he is trying to present a contrast, a binary of tradition and modernity, science and religion, We may call it superstition, or we may call it a religious belief. So this is how Ramanujan brings into play the binaries of the Indian household and family. Now, as we notice, the themes rampant in this poem are family, nostalgia, generation gap, Hindu customs and traditions, care and unity, attachment and irony throughout the poem. We are going to discuss these in detail in the next lecture. Thank you for now.